Evening, everybody. Welcome out to Cabinet, final Cabinet 2025. Good evening, Councillor Cox. We've just started. I've got a fairly heavy agenda for the December Cabinet this year, and so we'll get stuck into it straight away. We've got apologies for absence from Councillor Holland and from Councillor Sylvester Hall. Councillor Strachan's running slightly late, but will be with us very shortly. Any declarations of interest? No declarations, no. Super. As ever, if something pops up in discussion, please feel free to interject at the earliest opportunity. Got several items tonight. The first one up is the 2025-2026 performance report, Q2. That is my report, so I'll lead us through it. And headlined on this, we have two ways of measuring our progress as a council. One of those is our delivery plan, one of those is our corporate KPIs. 87% of our delivery plan is tracking green, 73% of our corporate KPIs are tracking green. Some particular highlights at 1.2 are the successful opening of the Lichfields Chasewater Greenway, which is fantastic news for a long time coming. Brilliant to get that open, and it's good to see so many of our residents using it already. The cinema contractor is on site and on track for completion next year of the cinema, which again, brilliant news. The keys for Lichfield Leisure Centre are given over to us next Friday, I believe, we remain on track for completion by December, opening, am I allowed to say the date, which is opening fully to the public on the 2nd, that's right, isn't it? And then the actual launch a week later. Yeah, brilliant. Beaumont Leisure Centre, the gym refurbishment's been completed, and I know that that's looking very good over there as well. We've launched two UK Shared Prosperity Fund grant schemes, one for our rural businesses and one for businesses to reduce their energy bills, which we know is a particular challenge for a number of our hospitality businesses in particular. We've absolutely flown through our disabled facilities grant adaptations this year to the point that we're now having to kind of pause works because we've spent the money there and completed so many. It's an absolute reversal of where we've been in most years prior to it coming in-house, where I think it was always the number one sort of capital slippage on the budget because we weren't able to get through them. So that's fantastic news again. Green flags for Beacon Park and for Burnwood Park. First time that Burnwood Park's got a green flag because of the work that's gone into it by our parks team, which is fantastic. And also two very successful summer events, the Lichfield Proms and the Lichfield Food and Drink Festival. I think if that was all we achieve as a council in a year, that'd be absolutely fantastic news on top of sort of our normal BAU activity. But those are quite literally just the highlights, the tip of the iceberg. The report obviously goes through the areas that we weren't as successful as well, which it quite rightly should. So this report is asking us to discuss this year 2 delivery plan Q2 and the KPIs from Q2 as well as set out in Appendix A and Appendix B, but also to discuss it where relevant as well. So I will open up to questions. I will put on record now that I'll probably need officer support on virtually every single question because I know we tend to drop right down into the detail of why some of these things are slipping, which we might not always have the answer to. But I'll open up questions. Don't have any, then let's move straight to the recommendation. Bill.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, there's a great deal of credit here. If you actually look at what's being delivered on top of business as usual,
Absolutely.
On top of the distraction for the last 6 months or so of LGR.
Yeah.
And the thing that stands out to me is not just the major projects which are on track, but a lot of the things that actually help the community. You've mentioned the Disabilities Grant as an example. So to me, this paper is absolutely full of good news stories that I think we can all be proud of, to be honest, and I would certainly endorse it at this stage.
Great. Thanks, Bill. Alex.
No question. Should be pretty clear. Just to comment to say, I think it's fantastic, really. And firstly, the amount of things that we're delivering in the green. I think that's really, really good news, you know, and you've highlighted some of the key ones in 1.2. But if you go down to 3.10, you know, it goes into more detail, some amazing stuff we're doing, the launch of the new housing and homelessness strategy, bringing in a highways consultant seconded into our team to assist in the decision-making process and planning decisions. That's been really helpful. Helping local businesses with their startup loans, you know, relocating Lichfield City bus station, engaging with the county council on that, and just all the good work we're doing, including, you know, the ongoing work for Womble's campaign for schools, food collection. I know we've got the food waste coming soon. I think it's just a really, really good report, and it goes to show that council like this can not only be well run, keeping council tax low, but also add on those extra services that mean so much to our residents. So thank you and well done.
Thanks, Alex. I'll take
Well, it's all you, isn't it? It's all you.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Something like that.
Yeah, just sounds like I don't have any specific questions. There's a couple of red items on there, but as the cabinet can see, they're mostly in the green. I think I completely just want to reiterate what Alex has said. I think for a small district council like ours to achieve what we're achieving at the same time as doing the business as usual, I think we really do not want to underestimate that. We've got the new leisure centre, we've got the new cinema complex, we've got the linear parkway, we've got the build we're doing over on the BRS site here, plus many other regen things that we're achieving. And I think if you were to look across the country, you'd struggle to find a district or borough council with the same amount of regeneration occurring as we're doing, just building a new leisure centre for one. So I think for us to be able to do that, plus to the BAU, I know gives them all a bit of a pat on the back here, so I apologise for anyone watching the video, but I feel passionate about it. I think it's quite impressive, and I think it's a great report. Thank you, Doug.
All good. So you got any? No, okay. I was just going to highlight a couple of things on some of the KPIs that are set as red, actually. So even I suppose this is the level that we're holding ourselves to. So stage 1 complaints completed within 20 days. We've got that on tracking red because we're not hitting our target of 100%. What we have done is from Q1 to Q2 improved from 63% to 94%, which is a significant jump. It's a significant improvement, but we're flagging it as red because we're not quite where we need to be. Similarly, I think if we look at the number of days for full plan applications to be checked, and this is this is almost kind of the lifeblood of the economy of probably most district councils up and down the country, is people having extensions done, alterations to their houses. That part of our economy is really hard to underestimate just how important that is. And we've got that down from 72 days down to 37.5. So again, we've kind of halved that time. We're still tracking red because we're not down at 20, which is where we want to be. So I think it's really good to see us holding ourselves to a high standard, even when that means adding a few more red flags on there, even though actually if we were looking at direction of travel, it would be a big green tick. Still work to do, but yeah, headed in the right direction. Anything that any officers wanted to add to that? Anything we've missed? Bring us back down to earth with a bump, Kerry.
I was just going to add to provide cabinet reassurance on those reds and ambers. Leadership team are regularly reviewing them and keeping a close eye on those and putting in that kind of constructive challenge and support to officers who are leading on those to further improve performance. So whilst this report comes to cabinet on a 6-monthly basis, leadership team are reviewing it regularly in between those times to keep an eye on those reds and ambers.
Thank you, it's very helpful. Bill, back to you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Gary. One of the things that sort of came out on the red KPI was the complaints. And I just wondered if there'd been an analysis, is there a pattern what those complaints are about, or is it almost anything, any topic, or is there a theme running through at all?
You're all right for me to come?
Please do.
We have recently done our annual complaints report, which I can forward on to you, Councillor Whitehouse, for some more context on last year's complaints. There are a number of services due to the volume of interaction they have with residents, that they do get more complaints due to the nature of the scale of those interactions. What we are doing in terms of those stage 1 complaints is we have quarterly performance review sessions with every manager in the organisation, where myself and the chief exec sit down and go through performance in detail. And as part of that, we include looking at stage 1 complaints to try and ascertain if there's any kind of patterns, and to check that a service area is prioritising responding to those stage 1 complaints within 20 days. So it's part of our performance review process, is looking at that information.
Super. Okay, let's go to the recommendations, and I think it is literally just we've got to discuss it and to note it, which we've done, isn't it? Do we even need to take a vote on this? We're not. We discussed it. We've approved it. Do we approve it? Yes, we do. That's brilliant. Thank you, everybody. Councillor Farrell, over to you now. Transfer of properties from Persimmon Homes to Lichfield District Council.
Thank you. This is an important and I think exciting report. So the council are going to take ownership of 28 new affordable homes if it's passed tonight. This is going to significantly expand our affordable housing provision, and the acquisition is going to be at zero capital cost following an agreement with Persimmon Homes for the Cricket Lane development. The homes are being transferred to the council through a Section 106 agreement, which will be available to residents, and they're going to be available to residents on Lichfield's housing register once complete. Construction is expected to begin mid-2026, with the homes due for handover in around 2027. It supports our housing, homelessness and rough sleeping strategy that I mentioned earlier, and hopefully it's going to strengthen the supply of high quality affordable homes in response to rising demand. Here in Lichfield District, more than 600 households are currently waiting for social housing, and of that 600, around 50 people have identified the St John's ward, which is where this development sits, as their preferred location. So the site as a whole will deliver around 128 affordable homes in total, including the 28 being acquired by Lichfield District Council, meaning a quarter of the development will be affordable housing, well above the district average of 17%. All 28 council-owned homes will be secured for social rent, hoping to meet long-term local need. The homes, which are valued between 4.2 million and 8.9 million, represent one of the largest additions to the council's housing portfolio in recent years. They'll be built to modern energy efficiency standards, helping reduce running costs for tenants and supporting the council's wider sustainability ambitions. And once handed over, the properties will be managed on the council's behalf by LWM. That's our arm's length trading company. I think it's a major step forward for us as a district. These 28 new social rented homes, just to repeat, have come at no cost, and will be they'll make a real difference, I think, to families who need good quality and places to live. And the agreement, I believe, demonstrates our commitment to expanding our council housing stock and meeting the needs of our growing communities with high quality, energy efficient homes that are protected for the long term. And I think it's a really good thing that as a council we're stepping into this area. Historically, local housing has been done in Lichfield District by a variety of providers, and I think it's important that we play our part and show the world we can do a really good job at it. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell. Andy?
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Alex. Yeah, I completely agree with Alex's words on this paper. I think it's something we've been discussing getting into with the council. And the fact we've now got our LATCO, our wholly owned trading company, I think it means we've got a vehicle to do this in a better way. So I think that's fantastic. I also think it gives us the opportunity as a council to who are not minded necessarily about profit or making money or revenue, to actually get involved with this and give people a great service. So fully support this. I've got a devil's advocate question, which is why will Persimmon give us these houses for free? I may be simplifying it, but what's the reason for that? Is the first question.
It's a good question. Yeah, it's never look a gift horse in the mouth. It's kind of like, why are they giving us these houses? But I think they can deliver the affordable homes on site, giving it to us without having to do the full registered provider kind of process that you have to do. it's quite a long, laborious tender process for these kind of housing units, which, if I'm honest, lately it's proved more difficult to attract other offers in the district. You know, it's a difficult process becoming a registered provider, and I think for them the trade-off is that they're giving us these units, and they'll have a proportion of the original homes outlined for affordable to sell on the open market. So they don't have to go through the laborious process of going out to tender and finding a provider. Some providers are saying no at the moment. They just haven't got the capacity to deal with this, and so it stops them going for the bureaucracy, and it also then gives them an opportunity to, you know, sell to the open market what they need to do in terms of the other homes that they've got. So it basically cuts out the middleman, and also it's a nice thing to do. I think we've got hopefully a good burgeoning relationship with Persimmon, and in the future that we can go and do more project plans.
I think fantastic, and I think then that kind of brings me on to my follow-up question, which is Persimmon are not the only show in town for building new houses and as developments. Are we going to be having conversations with the other developers who obviously have to put a certain percentage of social housing on these sites to see if they may want to do a similar thing with us? Is a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, this is us dipping our toe in the water. I mean, let's not run before we can walk. You know, this is only 28 properties, but I think it's really important that we take that small amount of properties on, because it's a challenge from our side, because we've never ran properties in this way before, although we are experienced in lots of aspects of project management. So hopefully this is going to go really well, and then in the future we can definitely reach out to other providers, because I think it's incumbent on us as a council not just to look out to the private sector. I think it's important for us to make these decisions and look after our residents ourselves. You know, with such a long list of people on the housing register at the moment, the quicker we can get these houses to these people, the better, I think.
Brilliant, thanks, Alex. And finally, just when I first saw a draft of this paper, I did have a mild concern. And now, when I say this, I'm fully aware that we're a council, not a business. We're not here to make profit, but equally, we're not here to waste council taxpayers' money either. So we've got to find that balance. I did have a mild concern when I saw the draft of this about what the maintenance cost of the ongoing maintenance cost of the properties will be. And I see we've nailed that down now with an estimate for that.
Yeah, we have
for that maintenance, which good news is less than the revenue we'll be taking off the rent. So I think that works quite well. So I'm completely satisfied with that as well. So has my full support.
Thank you.
Good. Bill, over to you.
Some of those points that Andy just made were exactly the sort of questions I'd got in mind. But also, just to expand a bit further on the maintenance side of things, I think throughout the paper it indicates that it's a little bit unknown as to what maintenance would crop up, but certainly I think it's hinted that it would be bigger than in general properties because of the nature of what we're doing. So what I didn't see there, and I was sort of expecting to perhaps see, was a sinking fund for future repairs, because in year 1, 2, 3 there probably won't be very many, but after that, then theoretically the price of repairs will start to increase. I just wondered, Alex, if that had been given any thought.
It has been given thought, yeah. So a sinking fund is going to be created from the rent that we receive from these properties. So the costs of managing and the on costs and repairs will be taken from the income levels of the rent received. I don't know if Anthony or any other officer wants to expand on that, but yes, it has been thought about.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. As I think you've indicated, Councillor Whitehouse, in those first few years, you'd expect there to be minimal major repairs needed. In our estimates and assumptions, we've still put in those annual figures for that year. So if that money isn't used, we'll be able to create a sinking fund from it.
Thank you.
I was going to welcome the policy, and particularly ask the question that I think I heard Andy already ask as I walked in, which is that why would we get it for free? And you've dealt with a lot of that. But I'd also particularly welcome the fact that Orbit have the affordable home fund as well, which means that this wider development actually does come very close to meeting our obligations, and I think it's the first for some time that's come anywhere near meeting our obligations for social and affordable housing. In terms of the creation of a sinking fund generated from one would imagine that for the certain period of time, given these are new builds, snagging repairs would be caught by the National Home Builders Guarantee. And therefore, I think the question that I was heading towards from that is what opportunities there may be to top slice that sinking fund if it turns out that we have been pessimistic in terms of how much we actually need. Because I think we're only forecasting a relatively low return of this, generating 105,000 and costing about 100,000 to maintain. That may be a little on the pessimistic side. So is there potentially going to be an opportunity to top slice that for the acquisition of further homes over and above the 2 million we've already committed?
Sure, there'll be more money for you to spend in the future, Rob. But I'll hand over to Kerry for that one.
As you've said, we have been very pessimistic. We'd rather be as prudent as possible moving forward with this. So absolutely, if when we get to the position where the properties are transferred and we've got a more accurate view on costs, we can have a look at to remain and what we might be able to do with it moving forward, and obviously liaise with the cabinet member.
Thank you. Reassuring. But otherwise, well done.
It is. Thank you.
Richard.
Yeah, thanks, Doug. Rob mentioned Orbit, and I'm very glad to see that in the equation here to provide. I do have an ongoing worry, though, that some of our other providers aren't stepping up to be social rented landlords within the district. And I know that the problems that we had, I don't know, I'm sounding parochial, but I got the evidence there where things were not swimmingly going in the right direction to provide the affordable homes on the Akersfield site in Hansacre. And it worries me that some of our RSLs aren't stepping up to perhaps the demand that we have with the amount that we have on our housing. But that's a concern. Regards the paper in front of us, absolutely endorse. I think it's an absolutely wrong thing to be doing under those circumstances I've just expressed, because there is concern and we're not necessarily squaring it at all, but we're going some way to actually recognising that problem of 600 on our list, and we've got to keep working at it.
Okay, if I can just come back on that one. So I completely agree. At one point, I kind of on purpose didn't mention in my opening spiel is that we have lots of social providers in Lichfield, and lots of them are doing a very good job. Some of them could do better, and I think that there's two concerns for me. Is one, I think the bigger the provider, I think generally the more problems naturally you get, and the more complaints we get from residents. So it's important for us to see, can we do this any better, and also to show that actually there are more options than just going to the usual providers. But I also agree with your concern that there were plenty of sites that we've had in the last couple of years in Lichfield District that needs more social housing, but there is no provider to come forward because they're just too busy, or they don't have the capacity, or whatever it is, they don't want the job. So we should step up, really. I think it's good that we are doing this, and I hope it's the first of many.
Back to you for your recommendations, Alex.
Thank you, leader. Yeah, recommendations 2.1 to 2.4.
Take them all together. Okay, yeah, we're all in favour. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, your officers as well. Thank you, please. Right, next up, mini nature reserves. Phil, you are the de facto cabinet member for this item this evening. Do you want to lead us through it?
Yeah, thank you. I'm delighted to introduce this paper. It's all about introducing 6 further mini nature reserves in the district to build on the good work that we've already been doing in Beacon Park and in Redwood Park and Burntwood. Builds on those plans, and it's also in line with the council's ambition to enhance biodiversity and residents' access to more natural spaces. So from those points, there's some great opportunities here. The parcels of land in question are not all parks. 3 of them are parks: Darnford, Sadlers and Shortbutts. And the other areas of land are off Eastern Avenue, land off Coulter Lane in Burntwood, Hammerwich area, and also York Close. So I've visited in fact, I've visited all of the parcels of land, and some of them, to be quite frank, are in quite a bad state of repair. And the proposal that we have here will clearly tidy those pieces of land up and make them more attractive for the residents who live close by. More information on each of the sites is contained in Appendix 1, with an aerial view of the site itself, and also the size of the site. We've also extensively consulted with ward councillors on this, and it's received total for that. And we've also consulted with the public in different ways. We've had 14 responses saying that they are for this particular piece of work. 7 responses were sort of negative, slanted negative, and then 17 responses didn't really talk very much about what we're proposing, but they talked about everything else other than that. So as this is increasing the availability of open spaces and making them better for the public, I think that what we've done so far here is showing that it's a great opportunity to move forward. It enhances the biodiversity and residents' access to natural spaces. It offsets and replaces biodiversity lost as a result of housing growth and development in the district. And it also enables income to be generated through the ecology brokerage service established with LWMTS. So overall, I think that this is a fantastic opportunity and would welcome any questions.
Brilliant. Thank you, Bill. Questions? Alex.
Thanks. I think it's lovely, Councillor Whitehouse. I think it's a really nice report. I seem to remember there was something a couple of years ago called Habitat Havens, and then it's probably like an expansion of that, which is lovely. From my point of view, with my ward councillor hat on, I seem to remember we quite wanted to get involved with the Habitat Havens. The reason we couldn't in Fazeley was because we didn't have any land that was owned by LDC, but we had land that would be perfect for it, but it was just owned by the council. So I'd like to see maybe in the future any way we could expand this out to parish-owned land or land owned by SCC, because I think it's a really nice idea. And of course, eventually, you know, the district might run out of land to do this on. But I think it's lovely, and I think it'd be nice to see that expansion in the future if possible.
Come back on
Yeah,
that.
please do. Yeah.
I think that what's probably changed over the last few years is that we've got a little bit more experienced in this, and we've also got James Porter on board, who's giving this a fresh emphasis, if you like. So I think that what might have happened a couple of years ago will now move on. And I think we've already identified locations that are not owned by LDC that we can start talking to people. In fact, in my particular ward, we've got our eyes on a particular location that might be suitable. So, and I know Janice, Councillor Sylvester Hall, has also started to talk to James about other sites as well. So to me, this is gaining momentum, and it should continue. So, a few questions.
Good. Well, Richard.
One comment. I welcome this considerably, and in partly answering what Alex is saying about parish partners. Armitage and Anzac have been doing this for 20 years, and having areas, particularly where nettles like to grow, and nettles are a great source for the butterflies, which not everybody thinks. So I welcome it because there are places right across our district where you can find such areas to be able to utilise and know that the job's being done. My question is around consultation, however. can we make sure it's a consultation is robust? Because I remember many years back when we wanted to pluck trees on Darnford Park, and it caused this real embarrassment to the authority because we hadn't really consulted with residents. So I just wanted to be absolutely sure that we take everybody on board. I think we will. But
As you say, many years ago.
it was many years ago, but when you were at the front of it and chairing the Environment Development Committee, you got the bump, you know, and it's scarred. You remember, and we should always learn from our mistakes. But it was many years ago.
Yeah, the point taken, and this is exactly the point that I've made with James, that we need to exactly do as you say and consult far and wide. So far, the public opinion, the taster, has given us an indication, but also James has taken it upon himself to knock on the doors of properties affected, particularly in your close area, and actually engage with the public face to face. So I think that the point that you make, Richard, has been well and truly noted, and we've already started that, and we'll make sure that we continue to do it.
Thanks, Councillor Whitehouse. Absolutely reassured.
Andy?
Thank you, Doug. Yeah, I fully support the paper. I think it's a great way forward. And I know we're doing some of these across the district already, and they've worked out extremely well. I did have a well, not a question, but it's all clear in the paper. I did have a same comment as Richard about the consultation, and you got that in hand. I think it's really important because otherwise people just wonder what it is suddenly in the open space to go toward the dog if suddenly there's a area of wildlife. I just think we've got to make sure, and I'm sure we'll be doing this, we've just got to make sure we pick the areas properly so they don't get in the way of obvious routes for dog walkers and routes for areas. Obviously we've done all that. I think as long as we do that correctly and do the consultation, I fully support it.
As I said, I've actually been to see the sites in question, and that was exactly my point, to make sure that we weren't getting in the way of existing football pitches or play areas or usage of any type. And I'm satisfied so far that it's not the case. So yeah, I'm happy with that.
Thank you, Phil.
I think for me, Phil, I think the funding element can't be underestimated. So the ability for us to enable income from the ecology brokerage. I think a number of these parks, and think about Darnford and Sadlers in my own ward, but certainly Shortbutts and many of the other parks in the district, will have all been funded predominantly by developer contributions when they were built 20, 30, 40 years ago. And I think a number of our residents are realising now that perhaps the shiny new park that was built is now feeling a bit tired and perhaps in need of some love. And clearly we haven't created 20, 30 years ago the pots of money and revenue streams to keep those up to the standard I think that our residents expect. So I think that the exciting thing for me, if you can call it exciting, well, it is exciting actually, is the ability to create an ongoing revenue stream that actually will improve the parks, not just the nature reserve of it, but actually every element of the park to create that revenue stream, which I think is just important. It feels like we're sort of magicking a revenue stream out of nowhere almost across an asset that's been there sort of lying dormant. So I think that's brilliant work by the team there. Just in terms of consultation, the lease to LWM for a 40-year period, do we know whether that will engage section 123 and make sure that we don't get our fingers burnt like we have done in the past on section 123? So disposal of land, particularly public open space, and even if you're leasing it, I think more than 7 years, it's classed as a disposal of land. So there's additional consultation and requirements that we need to undergo. So I suppose I'm just flagging that, as I did a number of years ago on another famous site, to make sure that we don't fall foul of that. It's I think on this, because of what we're doing, it's a technicality. What I wouldn't want to do is not do it, and then we get burnt on it.
Can I ask if anyone's got any comment on that?
Yeah,
Brilliant. In the report, there we go.
It's documented in both the consultation section towards the end of the box and also legal
Yes.
implications. As you say, there are procedural requirements
Yeah.
to be complied with, part of 123 of the section 123. So yeah, that is identified.
Brilliant. Thank you. There we go.
There you go.
You can tell who didn't get to the final page of that report. Me. That's good. Good. But yeah, overall, great. I think I look at some of the parks. I think we talk about nature reserves. People get panicky because they think of trees being planted all over a football pitch, or the classic. Well, the council just don't want to cut the grass, so we'll get away with it. And actually, I think explaining it really clearly, that's not what we want to do, I think is really powerful. So thank you, Phil. I will head back to you for the recommendations.
Thank you. Recommendations in section 2, that Cabinet agree in principle 6 40-year leases on the section of land listed above for the delivery of biodiversity enhancement works. 2.2, that Cabinet delegate the final decision to the Cabinet member for operational services, parks and waste in consultation with the Director for resident and business services and the monitoring officer following the relevant consultation process and consideration of any objections. 2.3, that Cabinet delegate authority to the Cabinet member for operational services, parks and waste and Cabinet member for visitor economy, ecology and climate change in consultation with the Director for resident and business services to agree the content of the leases subject to financial implications being funded from approved budgets. So please, is that okay?
All those in favour, if you can indicate that is unanimous. Thank you very much, Councillor Whitehouse. Thank you to your officers who supported you on that as well. Thank you. Right, on to the exciting paper now. Contract award for wheeled waste and recycling bins. LDC-475.
Thank you. Well, I think this paper is very straightforward. I think it is. I hope it is. I certainly hope so. The bottom line is we need a number of bins throughout the district for the Joint Waste Service. The paper in front of you itemises the amount of bins that we wish to purchase at a certain price, and we are looking to award a contract to 2 different suppliers, IPL Plastics UK Limited and also Kramer UK, for the supply of various size bins. Happy to answer any questions over and above that.
I will.
I
love bins.
I've got a question. It's the most superficial question going. I'm going to go Alex, and then
I bet it's not as superficial as my question. My comment is,
right.
what an amazing paper.
Thank you.
Question: Does the Cabinet member agree?
Yeah, you can be proud of it. No, I like the fact that we're using some local suppliers as well. One in Tamworth, that's nice. One in Telford, they're local-ish, that's good.
Yeah.
My question is, well, 2 actually. One is, if last year we delivered 6,000 new bins, well, I appreciate lots of those would be replacement bins. That's a lot of extra capacity and strain on the system. So, in the future, if we add, with more housing being pushed on us as a district, more bins being produced, does that cause us a problem in terms of, like, do we need more vehicles or more staff? I presume at some point we will do. And when does the bin die? Like, I presume people want replacement bins because something happens to them, it might fall over, whatever. But does a bin have a sell-by date where we have to go and replace them, or do we just hope they just never die? Is your question more flippant than that?
Yeah, it is more superficial than that, but it's a good question.
I think I could answer that to the best of my knowledge, but I have an expert on
That's fine. I
the
understand.
right-hand side here who
When does a bin die?
more detail. So please, can I call on you to help me with that one,
Is
please?
it when people don't believe in bins? Is that when they die?
Yeah, a bit like fairies.
Yeah.
No, to be honest, I do not know if bins have an average lifespan, but bins are replaced when the lids break, the wheels break, when they perhaps get damaged when they're actually being lifted into the vehicle, which does sometimes happen, when they get stolen. when they literally degrade, but I do not know the average lifespan of a bin, but I will go away and find that out for you.
Longer than literally district council's got left. I think.
I think that's true. Thank you.
Rob,
Did you have a second question?
Well, but the question was on if we can keep doing more bins, do we need more bin people effectively or bin wagons? But I presume the answer is yes eventually. But
Well, the short answer to that is yes. The long answer is all of this is kept under review all of the time to make sure that the rounds are given the most optimisation. But there will be a time when we have to make a decision. Do we increase or even decrease the amount of bins that we have? So it's a moving feast, to be fair. There's no yes or no. It's just that we look at it all the time.
Rob,
I'm also appreciating the fact that we let Lizzie get away with when they've been broken, but there we go. My possibly winning the second award for superficiality on the evening, because I don't think it's anywhere in the paper, is why have we awarded to 2 suppliers and do we not get a better efficiency from awarding just to the one, on the basis that IPL Plastics look like the larger supplier, but yet Kramer get the larger bin award? I'm just wondering why that's been awarded to different suppliers.
Are you happy to take that, please?
So it was the most cost-effective solution.
Beautiful, thank you.
And also Kramer are the existing supplier
Okay.
as well. So we have a track record with them.
Yeah, so we know we can trust them. You want to put them in the bin?
one question, which I think you've given me an answer to before, but it actually does bother me when you're driving down the road on bin day, and particularly in some areas of the district where bins are always stored on the street. To introduce a new colour or a new shade of a colour would really drive me at the wall. So I think there's a RAL colour or something, and is that we just match them to what we've already got? We just give them the exact same one.
It was part of the procurement process that we told them the colours that we use, and to the best of our knowledge, they've been able to match them. I don't think any two paint finishes are 100% the same,
Of course they're not.
but they will be from the same family and they will not be totally different.
Brilliant.
Anything further to add?
Yes.
Could be a resigning matter if you've misled Cabinet on that one, Phil. Brilliant. Okay. Any more?
No,
No. We're good. Back to you then, Phil, for your recommendations, please.
Thank you. Recommendations under item 2. 2.1, approval to award a call-off contract to IPL Plastics UK Limited for an initial 2-year term with an optional extension of 2 years for the supply of 140, 160 and 240 litre wheeled bins. 2.2, approval to award a call-off contract to Kramer UK Limited for an initial 2-year term with an optional extension of 2 years for the supply of 360 litre wheel bins. And 2.3, that should say, that the decision to utilise the optional 2-year extension to be reviewed and determined by the responsible cabinet member based on supplier performance and a recommendation from the responsible director, subject to the costs being within approved budgets.
Brilliant. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Phil, plus officers, thank you. Rob, over to you now then for the final 2 reports of the evening: Money Matters Money Matters calculation business rates and Money Matters financial monitoring.
Thank you, Leader. Dealing with the calculation of business rates, council tax base and collection fund surplus deficit paper first. This one is a largely technical paper, but it is a central and fundamental part of the NTFS process and is also a statutory obligation on us under the Local Government Finance Act. And so tonight I am seeking Cabinet's approval to confirm that this district's council tax base is 42,314.4 band D or equivalent homes, to confirm the estimated surpluses on both the council tax and business rate funds to government on the appointed dates, and to make one ancillary decision which relates to a council tax policy which has been reviewed since its introduction last year. And finally, I will seek Cabinet's delegation to complete the relevant certifications. You'll see details on the calculation at paragraph 3.6 of the report for anyone who wants to take a look. I will say as a start, you'll see in the supporting papers, we are actually performing positively on housing growth against our existing SLA, with 128% of growth delivered. But I'm only sorry that on that wider planning policy point, the government has chosen to move the goalposts and force even more development on us as a district. I turn very briefly at this stage to the empty and second homes policy. Cabinet may recall that's been running for some 9 months now, and it has recently thrown up a couple of issues. There were a suite of exemptions built into that policy at the outset, but they particularly relate to properties where there is residential property that's wholly ancillary to business premises, and which now seems to be being unfairly penalised by the policy. Rather than abandon the policy in its entirety, what I propose to do by this paper is introduce a safety net style exemption, where exceptional circumstances can be granted on application where there are situations that we didn't foresee, and where they don't directly conflict with the aim of the policy, which is to bring unused housing stock back into circulation, which is the thing that we intended to fix at the very outset. Subject to that, I am pleased to report that both the council tax and business rate funds are forecast to be in surplus compared to our projections, and at the appointed dates, which I think is the 15th and the 31st of January next year, they will be crystallised and reported to government on the sampling dates. Are there any questions?
Sure, there will be. Bill, over to you.
Richard had his hand up first.
No, you did.
Okay.
I'm chair, you go first.
Right decision, Chair. Right.
Yes, so looking through this, the word statutory calculations and sort of straightforward calculations comes into this quite a lot. I just wondered how much of this is discretionary as far as the figures are concerned. I know we calculate the amounts, but the formulas and everything that goes with it and the analysis afterwards, that seems to me to be straightforward, to follow a particular line of doing it that way. So I'm just wondering, is there any element of discretion that we could have applied to this, or does it have to stick to
I see very little scope for it. I'm aware that we make a couple of estimates within the thing, but given that the man who plugs this into the formula is sitting next to me, I'm going to ask him to answer that one.
Probably the two areas of judgment that we've got are growth, so that's the housing that's going to be built, which we use the SLA figures. The other area is non-collection, so what's the judgment on what we're not going to collect in the year, and those are really the only two judgmental areas that we've got in the calculation.
Thank you. Just as a follow-up on that, we based it on the SLA, which was prior to the housing numbers going up. Are we undercooked the numbers, do we think? And if so, by a large amount?
Yeah, go on, you go.
Sorry, so we've got the SLA that's in place at the moment, so which I think we got the latest estimates from the spatial policy team about a month ago.
Okay.
So it may well, going forward, maybe undercooked. Even then, you know, the numbers we're talking about in future years are 558, 789, 874. They're not out of kilter with that 750 target. But even if we did undercook it, it will catch itself up when we get to future years and adjust itself.
Great, thank you. Sorry, we should just interject on that question.
No, that's fine. Can I refer to 3.1 in the report? So, which has been alluded to in terms of then that council tax policy set 9 months running. I've got a question around empty homes, and I keep revisiting this because it infuriates me, certainly within the northern part of our district and obviously southern part of the Hinds, is the number of properties that have been compulsory purchased by HS2 that remain empty with no intention to sell or even put on the open market. And what is happening to those properties, and certainly within my ward, is that they are subject to vandalisation and theft in terms of a lot of the copper going from them. Now, through a freedom of information, I was denied on 3 occasions by HS2 of why what are you doing with the properties? And I wanted to know the number. Through our policy now, surely we can work that out ourselves and apply more pressure to HS2, because our district is going to be a stalemate for another 4 years over it. And I see that these properties, which there are several, are grade 2 listed buildings. They are our heritage. I've even my ward in Handsacre. Why on earth it was bought by HS2, I have never known, but it does need some renovation. But the longer it's left, the worse that renovation is going to be. And it's a grade 2 listed. So at one point, that property is then going to go on our risk register and cause another problem. So I'd rather hit it at the front and deal with this head on, because this needs possibly help from elsewhere. We need to bring those houses back into the housing market.
Richard, I completely agree with you. It is an absolute travesty that there are empty homes that have been compulsory purchased for a project that's now going to be stalled at least for a further 4 years and has already been stalled in this area for far too long. I think there's probably a multi-area response that's necessary, where there are properties that are derelict or that pose a risk to public health. That's likely to be an enforcement and environmental health point. But from this policy's perspective, and I'll come to the numbers in just a moment, our only real options in terms of compelling HS2 to sell is to apply the maximum penalties for those properties standing empty, which we are doing, I understand. I see a nod from my left. Which, as far as I'm concerned, is a horrific waste of public money, because it's a publicly owned company which is just pouring further public money back into us under the penalty that's there. In terms of the numbers, I know that Anthony has them. I've managed to lose the email temporarily. But on a parish by parish, Richard, in Armitage with Handsacre there are 2, in Colton there are 6, in Drayson Bassett there are 2, in Hamstall Ridware there are 2, in Hints with Kenwell there are 5. In Kings Bromley, there are 10. In Mavis and Ridware, there are 5. In Streethay, there are 5. In Swinfen and Packington Ward, there are 3. And in Whittington and Fisherwick, there are 5. And there, I believe, they're the premises at Knox's Grave Lane. So a total of empty homes across the district, compulsory purchase by HS2, is 45.
Sorry?
45.
45.
I hope that helps. I think that's probably something that we can all do better on, or all do well on, in terms of pushing back at HS2, because this is a horrific waste of public money. And properties that could be used.
Something for us to follow up in there, isn't there?
Sorry,
So,
yeah,
something for us to follow
it's for all of us to follow up, I think, probably.
I think it is beyond
Yeah.
for the council to really
No, I agree.
go into this, because HS2 are just going to, and then obviously the paymasters in the end as well. They need to be aware of what's going on with these properties. And obviously, yeah, 12 in my ward. There you go. That's why I'm interested.
You're interested as cabinet member on all 45, Richard.
No, no, but the point was, because I see them,
Yes.
it highlights to me there's a problem
Absolutely.
going across the district.
Rather than incorporate into the recommendations for this evening, Alex, could I ask you to pick that up with your housing portfolio and write to HS2 formally? Because it just seems crazy that we're crying out to bring empty homes back into use, and there's 45 so that just now. Obviously, it's not going to be that straightforward to bring them all back into use, but we at least ought to be having a conversation, because in some of those properties, as I understand it, are well, not miles away, but they're some distance from the track and definitely can be brought back into use.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Alex. Right, back to this paper then. Questions on council tax calculation, business rate calculation.
I didn't see any more hands, Leader.
I think the only thing from me, Robbie, is just in terms of the second home policy,
Mhm.
the empty home policy. I think when we initially discussed it as a policy concept, it was really to ensure to bring properties that are laying empty back into use. It wasn't to penalise people who, even if people are living here for 6 months of the year. I don't think that was the intention, to penalise people. It was to really address where homes are genuinely empty to be brought back into use. And I think perhaps the wording quite right with the implementation hasn't quite been what we expected. So I think it's important that we bring this exemption in to allow that discretion over that, because clearly it's it's catching far more people than we were expecting.
Yeah, agreed.
Over to you then for your recommendations.
Then I move recommendations 2.1 through 2.4.
Great, all those in favour? Joe, that is unanimous. Thank you, Councillor Strachan. Take us home, Rob. Money Matters 25-26 financial monitoring.
I will keep this reasonably brief because I know that it's a fairly weighty paper and you'll all have read it. This is the Q2 report of our medium-term financial strategy. And as ever, I'm pleased to report the overall outlook is one of robust financial health, and we still have significant resilience even in a very challenging sector. To pick up on some key points, the general reserves are forecast to be £135,000 below the original forecast, and that's largely due to a combination of updates from the back end of last year and the first part of this year, which has reduced our contribution back into reserves. But I can reassure Cabinet they are still at a reasonably healthy 5.67 million, and therefore are sufficient at present to tide us through and for us to use to deliver our objectives if we choose to. We are continuing to track leisure centre performance, and in this quarter the income is 137,000 below where we hoped it would be, but we are able to meet that shortfall from the earmarked reserve, and we remain grateful to LWMTS for their ongoing support assistance in this. I'm also hoping, given that I'm sure you heard before I arrived that the new leisure centre is on track, that this will be possibly the last time that I report that it's been depressed, and that we'll soon have a shiny new, very efficient leisure centre, which will be able to spread its wings and perform really well. While I'm dealing with LWMTS, I'll briefly record that they report they remain stable with no significant risks that would require notification to us, and so that is good at this stage. Turning to the capital programme, performance is at 3.37 and Appendix C. The majority of the changes on capital programme performance, which is 6.8 million less than the approved budget, is largely slippage into the next financial year, and that's just as the financial profile of projects evolve and move, and so it is not necessarily something that we want to get too worried about at this stage. Our capital receipts are £438,000 above what we expected. That is almost entirely due to additional right to buy receipts, which we never build into the budget because they're completely unpredictable, but they will be, in accordance with the approved policy, funneled towards our reducing homelessness budget. As I've already reported in the previous paper, both the council tax and business rate funds are forecast to be in surplus, although we have also already committed our share of those surpluses because they've gone towards the apprenticeship scheme, which we approved, I believe, at our last cabinet meeting. We are still wary of the proportion of council tax and business rates that remains unpaid, because as that compounds year on year on year, you do find yourself accumulating a rather large amount. But we do pursue legitimate recovery where it's appropriate. We write off debt where there is a debt relief order or an IVA, and we do engage with people as much as we can to help them to pay and catch up where possible. I know that it's an issue that, Leader, you and I have exchanged emails recently, that the team are working hard on that, certainly on how we engage with people who may be finding it difficult. Our payment to suppliers within our targeted 30 days remains at 92.79%, above the 90% target, but below the 100% perfect, and we'll continue working on that. Touching on our investments, they remain at A+, which is well above the A- floor target that we set. We have begun the process of drawing down some of those investments to cover our expenditure on projects as they come through, and also to protect against the removal of the IFRS override, which I still can't say. That is likely to flow through in subsequent reports. We have one significant service investment that's linked to the cinema project. It is very complex in nature, but it's set out as simply as we possibly can at paragraph 3.42 onwards. And I am, for my part, very much looking forward to seeing us bring that amazing asset into fruition, and look forward to seeing it hopefully in the next year. The recommendations, if I can touch on them in a little bit more detail. The first, obviously, is to review, which I'm sure you will do. The second is to accept our extended producer responsibility revenue grant, which is going to go into the MTFS and be used to fund our share of the Joint Waste Service in part. The third will be to add £800,000 to the capital programme to deliver the St John's community facility, which will be entirely funded from section 106. The fourth is to establish a social value fund, and if I can spend just a little bit more time on that. Our procurement team have been working on additionality within contracts. I've spoken about it here at Cabinet before, as well as in other venues. It's all about building additionality into a contract to deliver better quality of life for people in the district. We've been finding it perhaps a little more difficult where we have short-term or low-value contracts, because sometimes suppliers are finding it difficult to find levels of additionality that they themselves can deliver. And so we're establishing a social value fund, which effectively aims to secure 2% as a minimum of the contract value, which will go into a fund that we administer, and we can then grant into social value focused projects across the district. And that will be led by the social value steering group, which already exists and is a cross-council officer group. I'm seeking your delegated authority this evening to approve grants out of that fund. And that's just to basically use as a carrot and a stick. We can do this within the social value additionality part of the contract, but we'll take this 2% on contract value as the stick if you won't do it yourself. Finally, I seek confirmation from you as Cabinet that we don't propose to join a business rates pool for the financial year 2026-27, and that's because of changes in the sector, which mean that it's no longer financially efficient to be part of a pool. Are there any questions?
I'm sure there will be. Thank you, Rob.
That was just a data dump.
Comprehensive. Go on, Andy. Yeah.
I have a comment rather than a question. Now, yeah, with my leisure portfolio cap on. Yeah, I see what Rob said about the leisure income, and Rob quite correctly stated we are, as we all know, opening a brand new leisure facility, which will replace the retiring Friary facility. Just to put some numbers on our kind of expectations with the membership levels. So our Burnwood facility currently has around 1,500 to 1,600 memberships. The current Friary facility in Lichfield has less than half of that number of memberships. It is fully expected, and I've had lots of conversations with our leisure director on this. It is obviously fully expected that the new leisure facility, which offers all the same facilities as the Burnwood one, and obviously a new facility, will attract a lot more members. In fact, we're aiming for more than double. We're aiming across the piece, but Lichfield up to 4,000 memberships is our goal across the piece. And we can see if we reach that level, we are well within to be able to do what we want to do with leisure, really, which is, I mentioned earlier that we are a council, not a business. However, again, it is most definitely my preference that the taxpayers that don't use the leisure facilities don't fund the leisure facilities. So it's absolutely our goal that the facilities will their faces in terms of the usage and the income. So by the way, I don't believe that has ever been done in this council before with leisure facilities, with leisure centres. So it's an excellent goal, and I fully believe we can achieve that. So I think that will solve that red sore thumb on your on paper, Rob. Yeah.
Thanks, Andy.
Quick question on that. Sorry, I don't want to hijack it with leisure, but leisure is one of the big challenges, I suppose, that we've faced for years. Do we know when we decommission Friary Grange and therefore stop incurring expenditure on it? So at what point do we turn the taps off, as it were, at Friary Grange?
Sure,
That's a good
I'm
question.
sure there's someone to my left who knows the answer.
I'll have to have some help on that.
I don't have that information.
That's fine. It's not on the paper, so yeah, I appreciate it.
I know it is
Pleased.
being progressed, but I can obviously provide a full.
Yeah,
We'll Friday follow down that. Yeah.
that'd be good.
And interestingly, in this paper, the shortfall has not been from trying to keep the old facility open. It's been going forwards into the new facility to get it ready to be opened. Obviously aiming for that soft launch later this month.
That was going to be my second question, actually. So 1.3, and help me out here. I only got a B at GCSE maths. The leisure centre expenditure and income is projected to be a further 137,000. And the shortfall will be funded from earmarked reserves. if expenditure and income are lower, where's the shortfall coming from? Am I misreading that sentence?
I think that's us getting a B in GCSE grammar. That has been additional expenditure on the new facility, but income from the old one remains depressed. The details you'll see at 3.19, 3.26.
Well, okay. So there is a further expenditure. Its income is lower.
Yes.
Okay, fine. I got an axe in it. Right, more questions on that report? No, obviously no. Right, in which case then, thank you for the report, take it to the recommendations.
Thank you. I am pleased to move recommendations 2.1 through to 2.6.
Brilliant, thank you. That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Rob, and thank you to the office as well, as ever. That is the final cabinet for 2025. Thank you, everybody.